Alright guys, so my latest project here is installing Street Basis Z coilovers onto my Miata. My stock suspension was falling apart and it just was not very smooth when driving, so I decided to buy this kit, and I decided to cheap out and buy this because it looked like a decent kit and had great reviews. So here's what I thought of it, and here's how it worked out for me. Alright, my project is underway, so I'm getting to the top of these mounts here. So you got to get this big metal piece out of the way, which is kind of under this flap, and you just pull this back here, and then the spare tire comes out, and it shows that there. Alright, so once that metal guard is off, it kind of reveals the line to the fuel tank, so definitely want to be careful with that. Alright, let's remove these lugs, get this wheel off here. Take the wheel off and put it in a safe location. Then you want to remove these two bolts here, or nuts. So you remove these two nuts, one here, one here. They are 14 millimeter, and having a short extension here helps a ton, especially on this side when you have these fuel entry lines in the way, because it is kind of tucked right back here. Alright, we now have these two nuts removed, and we will be using our 14 millimeter quite a bit, so keep that handy. Alright, so back over here by the wheel, we're going to want to loosen this here, and I suppose you could either do this one, whichever one's easier for you. Undo that so that this can come off. Then you will loosen this, and finally there's a bolt here that just goes right into the other side that has the threads part of this arm here. And just naturally on an older vehicle, if they have not been changed in a while, this is going to be difficult to break loose. So I have a 14 millimeter hooked onto this side so that when I start to loosen it on the other side, it'll kind of wedge against this and it won't spin. And then I'm taking just a regular socket, and I'm taking my jack stand bar and creating a breaker bar with it. This has actually worked really good for me. And then once you have all the nuts and bolts completely loosened up but not all the way out, you want to use your jack stand. You want to use your jack to kind of just hold that in place so it doesn't fall. It's not going to fall off, but it will fall low enough where you won't be able to get to what you need to, or just catch you off guard. Okay, so everything is down. I've released the jack, and I put the bolt and nut back on here, so I don't lose it. And then this big one, can't really mistake, just sitting right there. You pretty much pull this whole thing down now. It just pops out. It's not that heavy, but my arms are so weak from working on this. So this is the only part that can be kind of dangerous. You need a spring compressor now, so you can undo this top center bolt, because if you just undo it now, I've seen people do this, and this top part will just go shooting off, so you don't know how far it's going to go, or if the spring is going to, do something unknown. So always use a spring compressor, which I'll show you how to use now. One thing that helps with doing this is getting a rubber mallet, which I have here, because getting it into here is not the easiest. So if you just tap it, it'll go right in. So as you saw, this popped off at pretty good force, and that's with the spring compressed. So just this little section here, and I guess the little section at the bottom caused a little bit, but if you had this full amount of force pushing on it, it would have probably shot out and hit the car over here. So we're not done with this yet. Now we have to loosen these, and then it'll slowly let the tension out of the spring. so that this is a circle rather than kind of that hard circle. Alright, so I've got it pretty close there, and if it's off by a little bit, it'll definitely let me know because it won't fit, and then I'll have to file a little bit more. Alright, once it's filed down, you can see just the top part of this is a narrower section, but to fit around this lower part, you have to file it down. And then we're just going to put that little piece on there and then bolt it up. Alright, so the second assembly went so much easier than the first. Obviously you learn as you go. But that bolt that you tighten, or that nut you tighten on up there, seemed like it was just spinning and spinning. But finally I got to this point where it was given some resistance. So you take one of these and you put it on here to keep it from spinning, and then you use a different one like this underneath to turn it as you hold this, and then it tightened right up. So good to go. That was my biggest concern, and I've cleared that up. So now I'm just going to reassemble this, put everything back in place, and make sure that this is at 1.5 inches because they wanted it that height from spec, probably because it'll kind of break in a little bit. You don't want to be too low when you first start out with this. Okay, I've tightened up all the bolts, and I've made sure that this gap was 1.5 inches. I've tightened those, and everything is good to go. Just like I said before, use the jack to hold this up when you get everything in place. It makes it so much easier. I'm going to get the tire back on, and I'm going to lower the vehicle. Alright, so in the front, very similar, but instead of having the same bolts to take out, you'll do the same sway bar bolt, but the bolt back here is the one we have to get. And I have this aftermarket under tray because my plastic one fell apart, so that might make it a little difficult, but we will see. But yeah, it's a really long bolt. It starts here and goes all the way through. Alright, so I have loosened the nut and detached the bolt here. Now I'm working on this big bolt way back here, and I learned that I wedge this lug nut wrench in here because I don't really want to have moving parts close to this brake fluid line. So this gets wedged up against here, and then I'm just slowly cranking this. As you can see, this keeps it in place while I'm cranking this on. So hopefully using that to my advantage, and I'll hold this part down so I can get more for each crank. Alright, so the nut completely came off, and I've got it here. I had like a really big washer and then a smaller washer with it, so I'm going to make sure I keep those in that order. Set them down here. And then this, I heard, is a tricky part, trying to get this bolt out, but looks like there's a little room to kind of pull it back through there, so we'll see how this goes. Alright, my front strut assembly is out, and my front shock. And so this bar here that I was talking about coming through, this really long one that goes all the way, it got wedged up against one of the, man, I don't know the terms, but this bushing that holds the sway bar in place, and it was just, I couldn't push it back in, couldn't get it to come out any further, so I loosened that so that the bolt up above the nut kind of dropped down, and it gave me room to slide that out. And then I moved this out of the way, and the strut came, or the shock came right out. Alright, I am all the way done, and much lower ride. I'm about to go for a test drive. Hey buddy. Alright, so in conclusion, the Street Bases Z coilovers are a great buy for under $500. I tried taking a video of after I installed them, but there was so much wind noise that I can't even include that clip. This is an unbelievable difference this rides so much better now. The install was not that difficult, under $500. You can raise and lower the car now. I mean, I raised it up to see how high it would be in its highest position, and it's like almost at the stock position now. I don't like it, so I'm going to go back. I just wanted to test that. And it's my first coilover kit, so I'm kind of interested in just seeing kind of the changes you can make. But yeah, my stock suspension was the original, and it was so rocky that I knew something was wrong with it. I could have lived with it for a while, but for under $500, it was a great value. And on the highway, the biggest difference now is when you're at 60 miles an hour, between 60 and 70, the car would kind of shake. That is gone. It's completely gone. And when I bought the car, I did that, and I thought something was like totally wrong. I thought I just got ripped off, and I was like kind of pissed. But it sounded like it was a common issue, so maybe it's just something with the stock suspension, because now it's gone, even in this heightened position. So, all right, thank you for watching, and if you are in the market for coilovers for not that much money, $450, I included the photo at the beginning, you can't beat it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.